All right, guys, what's going on? It's Coach Bronson here. I'm actually sick right now. I've been sick for a couple of days. I don't know if it shows up on the video or not, but anywho, I've been seeing some stuff lately that's got me a little fired up, so I want to talk about it and help illuminate some information and give you guys something to think about when we talk about preferred fuel for the body. I've been seeing people talk a lot recently about carbs being preferred, and somewhere where the conversation is evolving around carbs reducing inflammation and our bodies preferring carbs over fat, which I'm not sure where that's all coming from. But as always, before I get into that, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel. If you have not subscribed already, please click on the bell so you're reminded every time I come out with a new video. And most importantly, please share this information with somebody. You may change somebody's life with the information that you share. If it's helping you, there's a good chance it's going to help somebody you know. Okay, so let's get into this. There's a lot of people that are in the keto space, and we know that there's a trend in pretty much any industry, okay, particularly influencers who start in one area. They start talking about something, they get kind of ingrained, they build up a name, they build up a reputation, they build up a brand, and then they make changes. There's obviously people are going to experience things and learn things and grow and change, and they may change their opinions and views, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not here to bash anybody or say that anybody who changes their mind is wrong. I would actually say that if you're changing your mind about something based on information that you've gotten and your convictions about what you think is going to help people and actually works, then more power to you. Go out there and change the world. um, there are some things, though, along those lines that don't make sense when you are directly contradicting what your brand is. Okay. The most important one and the biggest one that I'm seeing right now is people who are claiming to be low carb or keto who are saying or have said seemingly contradictory things about carbs being preferred. That's a very dangerous thing to say, particularly if you have a following of people that are looking for and understand and have been trying to be keto and low carb. It's confusing information, and I want to set it straight. Okay. So here's the deal. I don't know if we can say, because we don't have a guidebook. It's not like we're reading. We don't come with a manufacturer's guide. So I don't know if we can say definitively carbs are preferred, fat is preferred. Right? We can only look at the evidence of how things work and what happens when we focus on one or the other. So what we're looking at and what we're talking about is what happens if I give myself carbs, what happens if I give myself fat. Okay? We're talking about how does the body respond to carbs? How does the body respond to fat? What is the structure and the framework of how we're built to manage each of these fuels? Okay. So that being said, we can extrapolate what our body prefers by a couple different characteristics of that framework and function of the system of utilization of fuel. Okay. You guys know I'm not a scientist. Okay. I'm a systems engineer. I have 20 plus years in systems engineering. My job as a systems engineer is to take the technical and translate it and apply it so that users and people can utilize the system in a way that makes sense and is easy. I'm the bridge. Okay. So we're going to bridge. We're going to take some scientific things and we're going to not get scientific about them too much. We're going to try to talk about them in a way that makes sense. I want to talk about the system level things and how we can think about what our body is doing and then determine what you think your body prefers, fat or carbs. Okay. So we're going to look at four characteristics. Okay. We're going to look at essentiality. We're going to look at priority. We're going to look at storage, and we're going to look at stress. Okay. Four characteristics of how our body manages fuel. Okay. The characteristics of fuel in our body, and compare fat, compare carbs, and see which one we think our body prefers. Okay. Because there's a very words mean things, guys. Words matter. Prefers is a very different thing than utilizes. Okay, because when we talk about priority, okay, let's talk about priority first. Well, we're going to talk about priority second. Let's talk about essentiality. Okay, essential nutrients are nutrients that we cannot produce based off of things that our body inherently has access to. Okay, we need sunlight to produce vitamin D. It's essential, but we can produce it if we get sunlight, right? There are other vitamins and minerals that are essential. Electrolytes is no, we can't produce electrolytes. It's probably an even better analogy. Okay, we can't produce sodium. We utilize sodium, but we need to ingest it. Okay, we can't produce potassium. We don't produce magnesium. We need to eat those things. They are essential for our survival. Okay, fat is essential for our survival. We must eat it. Protein is essential for our survival. We must eat it. They are essential. Carbs can be generated and created from fat. We don't have to eat carbs in order to survive. So if our body wants to utilize glycogen, if our body wants to manage the level of glucose in our blood, it can do so by breaking down fatty acids via gluconeogenesis and increasing the level of glucose in our blood, providing glycogen to replenish glycogen stores in our muscle. Okay, gluconeogenesis works within a ketogenic environment, a ketogenic fat adapted person, to supply the glycogen your body needs because you do not need to eat it in order to get it. Okay, so fat is essential, carbohydrates are not. Okay, characteristic number one. Okay, do we have to eat it? Or do we make it ourselves? Okay, we make fat ourselves. We have to eat fat. We don't make fat. We can make carbs or we can make glycogen. We don't have to eat it. Okay, that's characteristic number one. Essentiality. Characteristic number two, priority. Let's look at oxidative priority. We know oxidative priority is the order in which our body utilizes nutrients. Okay, talking about fuel specifically, we're not going to talk about protein because protein is not primarily used for fuel. Looking at the order of how things go, okay, alcohol goes first, exogenous fats, then carbs, okay, then body fat, adipose tissue. Okay, that's the order. Okay, when we think about how our body is processing things, our body wants to get rid of alcohol because it's toxic. That's why it's at the top of the list. There's no storage for it, and it's literally toxic to your body. Your body is like, I have to process this as quickly as possible, get it out of my system, and gone. Okay, alcohol's first. If we're talking about preference and we're using oxidative, because this is what I've heard some people saying, is that carbs are preferred because our body processes them before body fat. If that's the case and you're using oxidative priority to make the justification for carbs being preferred, then what you're really saying is that alcohol is preferred because it's processed before carbs. How does that make sense? I don't think that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Okay, something to think about. Alcohol is processed first, get it out. Exogenous fats are processed next. Okay, our body would rather process the fat, okay, because it's less inflammatory. We'll talk about that. It burns, you get more calories per gram. Okay, it's a better fuel. So if we're actually talking about, this is a case of on the flip side of it, this is where things get confusing, guys. On the flip side of it, now we're saying that oxidative priority kind of makes a justification for fat being preferred, because if I eat fat or if I eat carbs, my body would want to utilize the fat first. Literally, if I give my body carbs and fat, we're not going to talk about the Randle cycle. We're not going to talk about competing pathways and all that kind of stuff, okay? If we just look at oxidative priority and we say, Exogenous fat is processed first. Okay. That tells me maybe my body would rather have the fat than the carbs. Okay. Something to think about. Okay. So we look at oxidative priority. Okay. Then fat comes before carbs. So the justification for carbs being before body fat doesn't make sense to me to say that carbs are preferred over fat, because fat that you eat actually comes before carbs that you eat. Okay? Think about that. That's number two. Okay? Storage. The body has a pretty much unlimited amount of storage for body fat. Okay? You can store pounds and pounds and pounds of body fat. Okay? You can store 400 grams, 400 calories, 400 to 600 calories of glucose in your body, 700 calories maybe. Let's say 1,000 calories. Okay, you can store 1,000 calories of glucose in your body. All right, you can store hundreds of thousands of calories of fat on your body. If carbs are preferred, why is your body built to convert carbs into fat when it needs to be stored? Okay, something to think about. This is all I'm trying to get you guys to do, is think about these things, because from at a high level, we can dig into the weeds all day long and make justifications at the micro level for why certain things are what I want them to be, what so and so wants them to be. Okay, but if we take it up at the system level and we look at how things actually work within a framework, you start seeing a bigger picture here. Okay, so carbs are not essential. Carbs are processed after exogenous fats are processed, and there is far less space in your body to store carbs. Your body doesn't want to hold on to carbs. It's like, I want to get it, use it, and be done. Okay? Why? Because I can make it more if I need to. I don't need to eat it, so why would I need to store it? I have fat. If I need the carbs, if I need glycogen, I can pull from my fat and make the glycogen. I don't need to store it. I don't need to eat it. See what I'm saying? This is all it all. If when you look at it from the big picture, it all kind of makes sense. Okay. And then finally, stress, inflammation. Okay. It has been shown time and time and time again that fat burn creates far less oxidative stress and free radicals than carb burn. Okay. Utilizing glycogen for fuel creates more stress. Your mitochondria prefer fat. Okay. They reproduce and they function better when they're fat fueled. Everything works better when fat is the primary source of fuel. I don't know how anybody looking at any current studies in the last 5 to 10 years can say that carbs reduce inflammation. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Okay. Shown time and time again. Fat burn is more energy production and less inflammation overall under pretty much all cases. Okay. So when we take that into consideration, okay, now we've got 4 characteristics we talked about. Okay. Fat is essential. We must eat it. We have unlimited storage. Our body processes it first. Okay. And it produces the most bang for the buck energy wise with the least amount of stress on our body. All 4 of those things to me say that our body is built to use fat more than any other fuel source. Take that for what it is. Think about those 4 things: essentiality, priority, okay, storage, and then inflammation. Those 4 things, if you go back to them every single time, we're going to point you to fat. Okay, get fat adapted, improve your body's ability to function, okay, and see how things change. All right, that's my kind of rant for the day. Take it easy. See you on the flip side.